Greetings trainers, KuroBlitz here, and welcome back to another video. Today I will bring you a very interesting topic when it comes to the Pokemon world and the very infamous character that is Ash Ketchum and his partner Pikachu. Would they be able to defeat the protagonists of the Pokemon Adventures manga? Let's find out. Alright then, so let's get started with a bang. With the Kanto region nonetheless. Red. Would Ash Ketchum be able to battle Red or win or whatever more? I do believe so, and I think that the best team for this, unironically enough, would be his Journey's team. The regional champion against the world champion. I think this team would be amazing and they would have several fun matches. The Pikachu duel is of course an exemplary one. And we have, the aquatic Kanto Pokemon of Poliwrath and Dragonite, the poison ones of Venusaur and Gengar, the empath ones of, Lucario and Espeon, and we have the bruisers of Snorlax and Sirfetch'd, and of course the fossils of, Aerodactyl and Dracovish. I think this will be a very fun fight, so when it comes to all of this, let me know who you guys think, it will win when it comes to Ash or any other of these characters, and what kinds of, battles and changes you would like to see in the comments down below. As up next we have the rival, Green Oak, the alternative version of Gary. And I think that for this team, Ash would have used, his first team of the Kanto region, the original 6, and I think this has, a great set of matchups. Pikachu battling Porygon 2 because of the whole band episode thing, Psyduck, Golduck and Squirtle because it's water, Caesar and Butterfree due to bug, Machamp and Pidgeot, they are, very, iconic Pokemon. One can Gigantamax, the other can Mega Evolve. We have the Titan that it's Rhyperior versus the small Emperor of battle that it's, Bulbasaur. And you can never fail with a Charizard mirror match, right? Now, for Blue, or Leaf, however you want to call her. I think that for this, Ash should use his reserves from the Kanto region, except Tauros. I have that saved for later. But when it comes to battling Blue, I think that, the matches will be something extremely unique. Pikachu battling Ditto will be iconic like in the Orange Islands, and then we have, maybe Ditto switches out, and then we have, Muk versus Ditto, but I think Muk would be, more fitting with Wigglytuff. And then you have, the bruisers of Snorlax and Gramble, Clefable battling her Shadow and Gengar, the draconic beings of Nidoqueen and the Dragonite, and the water match of Blastoise and Kingler. Now, for Yellow, this is actually something very interesting. I think Ash will basically use a combination of, his Kanto Pokemon and his Johto Pokemon in order to, face Yellow, and once again, the Pikachu mirror match will be involved, but we have also, the normals with Raticate and Tauros, the flying with Dodrio and Noctowl, and the bug with Butterfree and Heracross. There is a lot of combinations. And then we have, the water beings of Omastar and Kingler, and the rollout duo of, Golem and Donphan. This will be extremely interesting, and this leaves it for, the Kanto region Pokédex holders. Let's continue on with Johto, shall we? Now when it comes to the Johto region, I decided to, not use Sudowoodo or Mantine because another trainer in the future will use them. I have Gold use Pichu against Ash's Pikachu because I think the match would just be very fun. And speaking of fun, this is what the battle is going to be all about. Nothing serious, and therefore Ash is going to use his Johto Pokemon. And I have, Totodile against Ambipom for playthings. And then, Heracross and Politoed because, they are the heavy hitters. The grass types of, Bayleaf and the Sunflora. The flying of, Noctowl and the Togekiss. And of course, I had to have the match of Quilava against Typhlosion. I couldn't bypass that. When it comes to the next match, we have Silver, the son of Giovanni, the heir to the throne that is Team Rocket. I decided that Ash should use not only Pikachu, he's going to use Pikachu for every battle, okay? But Ash is going to use a combination of his ground type Pokemon because that's the specialty of Giovanni with the whole Earth Plate and the secrets of the land book that he had. and I think this is going to be very interesting of a battle, because I do have Pikachu battle against, Ursaring, 2-stage, not fully evolved Pokemon, and then we have, Gible against Weavile. I think this will be a very cool match. The flying duo of, Gliscor and Honchkrow, the iconic Pokemon that it's, the baby Phanpy becoming Donphan, and the red Gyarados, and the Kingdra against Torterra will be another cool match. The final one will be Feraligatr against Crocodile, because I want for both the Crocs to fight. Now, when it comes to the next battle, that's going to be against Chris. And Ash vs Chris is going to be... One thing I want to utilize is basically the fact, Ash is going to use his fighting type Pokemon. Given how Chris trained hard as a child in Mount Mortar, and that's where you find the Karate King that gives, the Tyrogue egg. And for that, I think that, Ash should have battled Chris with his fighting Pokemon. We have Hawlucha versus Xatu for flying types. We have Primeape and Cubone because of Kanto. We have, Infernape and Arcanine because of fire. Surfetch and Hitmonchan because of fighting. And then, of course, for iconography's sake, we have, the Meganium and the Lucario. Pikachu will battle Smoochum, but Pikachu battling the babies doesn't mean that it's a pushover. These babies in the manga do go hard, people. And now with that, we are going to the Hoenn region. And the Hoenn region, we have, very interesting matches. The first one is going to be against, the coordinator that is Ruby. And for that, Ash is going to utilize his original Hoenn team. And Ruby is going to give him a very tough challenge due to the contest performances and tactics and skills that he has, not to mention that he's the son of a gym leader, so is there notoriety to his skills. Ash vs Ruby, it's going to be very chaotic, because we have Pikachu against Castform, controlling the weather, we have, the Frill Delcatty against the Slow Torkoal, the heavy hitters of Mightyena and Glalie, the water types of Milotic and Corphish, the starters of Swampert and Sceptile. However, I think that this battle should be, one of beauty and brute force, that, finishing off with Gardevoir and Swallow. Swallow is going to be the MVP and the final hitter of this fight. And speaking of final hitters, the counterpart for May, we have, the daughter of Professor Birch now, Sapphire. When it comes to Ash battling Sapphire, I think that Ash is going to utilize not his strongest Pokemon per se, but a combination of Pokemon that can actually deal heavy damage on Sapphire. And with that, I decided to have Pikachu battle Tropius, Glalie battled Wailord because they're both from Hoenn, Mr. Mime, yes, Ash is going to use Mimey here, it's going to battle Donphan because they are not natives to the region, and I decided to bring Goodra against Aggron because they are both draconic Pokemon. Charizard will battle Blaziken to basically have a revenge in terms of, having lost, Harrison's in the Johto League. But the final match, it's going to be, Ash's Solgaleo against Sapphire's Gallade. Two Psychic types, one with a Z move, one with a Mega Evolution. One had training, the other had not, and I think that, with Solgaleo being a legendary with no training, and Gallade basically having training and Mega Evolution on top of that, the power creep, it's going to basically be leveled here, and the match is basically for the sake of fun, so no harm, no call. And going up next, I have, the 10th Dex Holder officially. We have, Emerald. Ash battling Emerald, I did consider a mirror match of Sceptiles, but I think that Snorlaxes battling each other, it actually has more fittingness to it, and that gives, Pikachu an opportunity to, style on Sceptile yet again. The performance against Sawyer was lesser because Greninja had the spotlight and the storytelling, but that's besides the point. This means that, Donphan and Sudowoodo will battle because they're Johtomons. Charizard will finally get a revenge on, Brandon, and by beating, Emerald's Dusclops. We have Heracross and Mr. Mime. I think this is a very fun battle, and therefore Sceptile's quick aerial maneuvers is going to, try to outstage Mantine for this one. The team that I decided to give Ash here are Pokemon that he already had during the end of the Battle Frontier arc, and all of these Pokemon basically incorporate a saga until that point. Charizard being Kanto, Snorlax being Orange, Heracross being Johto, Sceptile being Hoenn, Donphan being the Battle Frontier, and Pikachu being the overall narrative. And speaking of overall narratives, I am going to have Ash also battle the Dex holders that were just that title temporarily. First and foremost, Wally. And with that, I decided to, also give a little, name, a little, designation for the Dex holders that are not officially, with Wally being the climber because of the whole Sky Pillar situation with the bike and, the asthma mask. Yeah. And Ash is going to battle him with his grass types of, Bulbasaur, Livani, Bayleaf, Torterra, and Sceptile. And I think, these matches with, Wally's, Roselia, Cacturne, Altaria, Magnezone, and Flygon are going to be very unique. Pikachu is going to battle a Kecleon again like in the Johto League, but that's, that's bypassable. I think that the great matches would be, the very last two, with Torterra against Magnezone because they're both from Sinnoh, and Sceptile basically battling a Flygon because they're both from Hoenn would be very cool to see. Speaking of Sinnoh, that is the region that I want to tackle next, and this one is phenomenal. Ash is going to use his original 6 Sinnoh Pokemon, the ones that he used against Paul, to battle against, Dia. Or Dia, however you want to pronounce it. These slow yet bulky Pokemon are going to give Ash a tough challenge, because Munchlax against Pikachu it's going to be amazing, Lickilicky against Buizel basically speaks for itself, Gliscor will be able to style on a Bastiodon yet again, Staraptor commanding the skies while Mamoswine commands the lands, and last but not least, the Torterra duel. At Torterra it's going to be the MVP of this one, and that's because I'm going to have, Infernape tie with Registeel in the 5th match. Yes, like not Registeel, Regigigas. I am so sorry. Regigigas is going to defeat Pikachu, and then Infernape comes in, activates Blaze, defeats Regigigas, and then the final match will be, the Torterra mirror match. I think this will be very fun, and actually gives Infernape a legendary feat. Speaking of Infernape and other fire types, I decided to, have Ash use his fire types against, Pearl, because he's very enthusiastic. All of his Pokemon basically have a high speed stat to display that, like how, Dias have, defense and more bulk and more HP. Like 3 of them are normal and the other 3 are almost ground, because Bastiodon isn't, but that's semantics. That's really semantics at this point. With Pearl, I decided to have Ash use his fire types of Quilava, Pignite, Torkoal, Incineroar, and Charizard, and I think that the match will be funny, like Pikachu against Diglett. Diglett would give a very hard time on Pikachu because this is a manga Diglett, right? It's no ordinary Pokemon. The Weasel Furret match of, Buizel and Quilava, I think it will be cool. Pignite battling Tauros will be fine. Torkoal against Chatot, the iconic Chatot, and the iconic Torkoal too, the Yeller and the Crier, I think it will be very funny. And we would also have, the Tigers of, Luxray and Incineroar. Those would be very fun matches, and it would end off with the Fire Starter Showdown of Infernape and Charizard. And speaking of Final Showdown, for Platinum Berlitz, the counterpart of Dawn. Much respect to her name, she has a very unique team of Pokemon, and I would like for Ash to basically utilize what, in theory, could be his ultimate or dream team. I'm going to have Ash use Pikachu, Sceptile, Lycanroc, Charizard, Lucario, and Greninja for this one, because all of them represent a saga of Pokemon in a way. With Charizard being the original series and also the return for Best Wishes, Sceptile being for the advanced generation, Lucario being, Diamond and Pearl representation due to the remakes, but it's a Journeys Pokemon, and we have Greninja for X and Y, Lycanroc for Sun and Moon, and Pikachu for the overall journey, and I think this would be amazing matches to have. With Pikachu with Pachirisu, Sceptile and Cherim, Lycanroc and Lopunny, Charizard and Rapidash, Lucario and Frostlass, both from Sinnoh, and the final water showdown of Greninja and Empoleon. Now, continuing to the Unova region, and this is going to be a heavy lefty one because we have 6 Pokédex holders here. Yes, 6. Starting off with Black, the counterpart to Hilbert. I'm going to use his Reshiram to battle Pikachu because there is no other Pokemon that I can see Pikachu battle here. And Ash is going to use his original 6 of Unova, and I think the matches do speak for themselves. We got Pignite against Tambor, and Pheasant against Braviary, Scraggy against Galvantula, Oshawott versus Caracosta, Snivy against Busharna. I think that these matches would, work. We had Fire and Fire, Flying and Flying, Water and Water, and you get the gist. And since Snivy had Leaf Storm, but it never was stated that Snivy had Contrary, but we know that she had Contrary, right? It means that, she can battle the Pokemon from the Dream World because of hidden abilities were accessed there. It kind of just makes sense to me. Continuing on, we have the character of White, the counterpart to Hilda, and I think, for this, Ash would utilize Pokemon that kinda look draconic but are not dragon types themselves, if that makes any sense, because of the whole Reshiram and the Light Stone and taking care of Black in a way. So Ash battling White means that he could bring Snivy, Larvitar, Totodile, Scraggy, and Crocodile. Therefore we have 3 Pokemon that are from Unova and 3 that are not. And these are some interesting matches like Snivy and Deerling, Larvitar and Volibee, Totodile and Stunfisk because they're both aquatic, Scraggy getting a win on Duosion, Crocodile basically having to battle, a Serperior, and Pikachu versus Alomomola. I think it would be a very cool visually, spar. Now, when it comes to the other 2 for the next round, we do have Charon and Bianca. And as for Charon, I also gave him a nickname, by the way, check it out. For Charon, I'm going to basically use the Mons that Ash used against Cameron in the Unova League, being Pikachu, the starters, Unpheasant, and Boldore. Charon in the manga doesn't really have many Pokemon, so I basically had to, give him some extras, but not too powerful, but powerful enough for this fight. So as you can see, we do have Pikachu against Fracture, Oshawott against Servine, Pignite against Simipour, Snivy against Slippard, we have Boldore and Gigalith. This is a very fun match, and we have the Unpheasant rivalry, the female of Ash and the male of Charon. And speaking of females, now let's continue with Bianca. I think that Bianca is a very energetic and very unique character, and I want to try to balance out by giving a very energetic and unique team for Ash to face her. Being with Corphish, Bayleaf, Primeape, Kingler and Crocodile. Yes, I have Corphish and Kingler on the same team because it was never done, so I had to do it. And these matches, honestly, I don't think they are half bad. Like, Corphish battling Oshawott because they're water and cute, cool. Bayleaf and Petilil, cool. Simisear, it's a monkey, Primeape is a monkey, speaks for itself. Like, and then we have, Lampet and Kingler, they're the odd ones, but it makes sense. Stoutland and Crocodile are the Unova powerhouses, it makes sense. And Pikachu never battled a Minchao, and I'm so mad about it. I love Minchao, so I really wanted to Ash to have the opportunity, even if it was on this hypothetical scenario. But now continuing on with the actual new Dex holders of the Unova region, those being of Blake and Whitley. Now, when it comes to Blake, since he's Black 2, the character, even though his name should have been Ebony and the other girl should have been Ivory, I'm going to have Ash use the team that he used against Roxy. Jokes aside of however you feel for the Roxy fight, the Pokemon that Ash used are actually very well balanced because no types really do repeat amongst themselves, if you really think about it. Now when it comes to Blake, he's a member of the International Police and he's even ranked above Looker. This is something to consider. And I think that Ash battling this guy, it will be something extremely instrumental when it comes to raising the power of his Pokemon, and the Unova team needs that. The Unova team needs that. Pikachu against Gliscor would be incredible because Pikachu has to rely on his non-electric moves, something that he really should have done with the Trip battle. And then we have the rock match of, Kabutops and Boldore, the starter match of, Duot and Pignite. We have, Palpitoad battling a Keldeo because he battled two Zebstrikers, being of Elisa's and Stefan's, so he has, expertise with these types of Pokemon, and it gives, Palpitoad something to do. The legendary Musketeer and the Lord of the Lake. This makes sense. And speaking of legendaries, Genesect against Leavanny. Leavanny was in the Genesect movie, and I'm so mad that Leavanny was not utilized to his fullest potential in that movie. When it comes to a speed battle, I have Excavalier against Unpheasant in the Skies to basically end it all off. But not end off the Unova Dex holders as of yet, because I have Wheatley to talk about. I talk about the Nate counterpart, now let me talk about the Rosa counterpart. Wheatley. She was a liberator of Team Plasma, and part of me was thinking of, using the Mons that Ash released to battle her, but I think that those Mons are better suited for another opponent of him, and since Wheatley doesn't really have a team besides, Fungus, Excelgor, and Delphox that she gets from the Kalos Dex holders, because there's only Xavier and Yvonne, yes, those are those names, screw you, I decided to basically give her Mons that she utilized temporarily, Jigglypuff from the Aspertia Academy, and also, Ducklet and Sandile from, the Plasma Liberation Plan. And Ash basically having a battle for fun, and for the sport of it, he will use the babies of Unova to, battle, her other babies. Pikachu and Jigglypuff is a classic, I could not bypass that. And then we have, the heavy hitters that, is Primeape against Excelgor, power and speed. And, Crocodile battling a Delphox, it just sounds cool to me, okay? Speaking of Delphox, let's continue with the Kalos region now. And thankfully the Dex holders are getting, lesser, I think. When it comes to X, a former child prodigy and the user of Mega Evolution, I'm going to have Ash use his Kalos team. There is, no other way. He's going to use his Kalos team. Pikachu against Kangaskhan because, he was raised by one. Awesome. Greninja and Chestnut are two starters. Awesome. Charizard and Talonflame, it's fire flying. Awesome. Gengar is a trickster. Noivern is, very night creature like Gengar itself. Awesome. Goodra from the wetlands, and Manectric being the police Pokemon that they use in Kalos. It's urban versus nature. Awesome. And last but not least, not the fighting ones, but because Pinsir is not a fighting type, it knows a lot of fighting moves. You get what I mean, It's, the beast of the forest and the champion of the forest against Hawlucha. This is just pure awesomeness battle. It's raw, it's cool. There is really not much that I have to offer for this. I just think, it will be very fitting. The next one, however, against Y, is actually very more thematic, because she's a Sky Trainer, and therefore I'm going to have Ash utilize his flying Pokemon. Those being of, Gliscor, Noivern, Hawlucha, Butterfree, and Pidgeot. I have no Charizard here because I already battled in the fire department, and I don't think, having Talonflame here again makes sense. Hawlucha and Noivern do suffice. I decided to, not have any regional bird beside, Pidgeot, that's why Talonflame and Staraptor also did not make the cut. But Y's team is interesting. She's going to start off with, Zerzer, her Xerneas, and that's going to be Pikachu's win. We have a mega match in the end with, Pidgeot and Absol. We have, the cute Pokemon with, Butterfree and Sylveon. Hawlucha gets to battle, Greninja, so that's awesome. Her Fletchinder is going to battle Noivern, so Noivern basically gets to spar against the species that he normally spars with already. And then we have, the Rhyhorn against Gliscor because they're both ground types. That's basically all that I had to offer. Not all matches are wins, sorry guys. But speaking of wins, let's take our champion of Alola to the tropical archipelago that crowned him as the trainer that he is today. Now, for Alola, I'm going to have Ash battle against Sun and Moon. And against Sun, Ash is going to utilize the Alola team. There is no other way. Like, there is no other way. He needs to use the Alola team against, you know, the sun. Pikachu against Meowth, it's a tale as old as time. The cat and the rat, right? So it just made sense. I don't want to repeat the Mimikyu situation, that's why I give it to Rowlet, right? Because of the disguise and the CGI cloak. And then we have, you know, Lycanroc, you know, battling Wishiwashi, trying to, you know, control, you know, their temper due to being wet and whatnot. The Incineroar mirror match, it makes a lot of sense to me. The Ultra Beasts from the Ultra games, Stakataka and Naganadel, it makes sense to me. And then, you know, the heavy hitters of Crabominable and Melmetal, it also thinks, it feels right. It just feels right. One evolves in a specific location, being Mount Lanakila, and the other evolves with a specific method, which is basically, you know, Pokemon fusion. I just think this works. Now, when it comes to Moon, this is where I decided to, you know, utilize Ash's released Pokemon instead of using against Whitley for the liberation of Plasma, because even though Ash released his Mons, they are family, and that is what the Alola region is all about. Pikachu is going to battle the Rotom that lives in her Pokédex, Butterfree is going to battle Charjabug due to being bug types, Primeape is going to battle Mareanie due to their explosive temper, Naganadel is going to battle Alolan Muk due to being both poison types, Greninja is going to battle the CGY due to being both starters, and she does get a Piplup. It's implied that it's Platinum's, and it's implied that Platinum is her older sister, so there's that. There was a lot of Sinnoh hints in Alola games, and that's why people had remake theories back then, right? Even 5 years prior. And that's why I decided to, you know, use Larvitar, like, you know, the land and the sea, because that's, you know, a very grand topic for Alola. But now, going to land and sea, let's go to the Galar region. Now, as for the Galar region, the characters were not named after the Sword and Shields. They were called Henry and Casey. Henry Sword and Casey Shield, but semantics. It was Sodo Tsurugi and Shirdomiya Tate. Now, when it comes to Henry, I decided, because he's a Toolmeister, I decided to basically have Ash battle him with the Pokemon that can Gigantamax from his size. From his side. Since he doesn't have a Galar team, realistically. So I decided to basically have Ash use the Pokemon that can Gigantamax to battle against, you know, the Toolmeister, that it's Henry. And so with that, we have, you know, Pikachu against Girder, two middle stage evolutions with a method of evolution that they are not acquired to have yet. Kingler against Sirfetch'd, it just it feels unique. Then we have the heavy hitters of, you know, Snorlax and Urshifu, the tricksters of, you know, Gengar and Oranguru trying to outsmart each other, Charizard battling Mr. Rime, it just feels like he's back at home with Mimey. And then we have, you know, the bruisers of Melton and Melmetal, sorry, and Rillaboom. Now, when it comes to Casey, because Casey wants to retrieve her Pokemon back that, you know, they were in the wild, I think that for Ash here, Ash needs to use his natives of Galar and Alola. And this works because for Galar he only had 2, being Dracovish and Sirfetch'd, and for Alola he had 3 natives. Because Solgaleo and Naganadel are not from that world, and Melmetal is basically unknown where they came from. So I have Rowlet, Lycanroc and the CGY for this match. And honestly, I love it. This is a very interesting fight. We have Pikachu against Ice-Q, so we have the whole Mimikyu disguise thing again. We have the Fish Brawl of Arrokuda and Dracovish. We have the Fighting Brawl of Phalanx and Sirfetch'd. We have, you know, the trap that it's, you know, Stunfisk and the substitute Feather Dance that Rowlet does. We have, you know, Pokemon with forms in Toxtricity and Lycanroc. And we have fire types in Cinderace and Incineroar. So, what's not to love here? Now, there is another trainer who is not a Dex holder from Galar, but I feel like we should tackle this trainer. I had Ash utilize his Grass Mons, his Fire Mons, and even the Fighting, Flying, and Ground. There is one element that is still to be used, massively I mean. That is the Water type. And therefore, I decided to have Ash battle against Marvin, the NPC from Route 3, the researcher for Magnolia, the future student of Mustard in the Isle of Armor. In the manga, in Pokespe, in Pokemon Adventures, Marvin only has Dracovish and Inteleon. So I decided to give him some extra team members. There's Cramorant because it's a water type as well. There's, Cursula due to being, a regional evolution. There's Slowbro due to being a regional variant. And neither of these are water types, but they are aquatic. And I decided to basically give him a Dragalge for this. Because being a poison dragon type, it's a cool callback to Eternatus. And these are the matches. Pikachu against Cramorant, it's a tale as old as time. I have Lapras return to battle Dracovish, so he must be prepared for that new Freeze Dry move. Squirtle against Inteleon are two starters, and Squirtle is going to give Inteleon a hard time. Kingler against Cursula, I think this is funny, the crab from Kanto and the coral from Johto, but the Galarian edition, right? Totodile having fun battling against Slowbro. I think it would be very cool, and then Palpitoad of the lake and Dragalge of the seas. It's thematically fitting. And speaking of thematically, we are going to Paldea, and this is the last match that Ash is going to have. We have two Dex holders in Paldea, being Scarlet Koito, the Treasure Hunter, and Violet Lang, the King of Speed. Now, they do not have full teams as of yet, so I decided to combine both for a team effort, for a tag resolution. From Scarlet's side, she is going to use Armor Rouge, Palafin, and Sprigatito that she recently got in the manga. Tarantula, it's going to be skipped, I'm sorry. And for Violet, he's going to utilize Crocolore, Nimble, and Wooper. And with this, Ash is going to utilize also not fully evolved Pokemon, but they are very powerful also on their own right. We do have, Pikachu against Armor Rouge. It's going to be a very iconic battle. I did consider Gible against Palafin because Land Shark and Land Dolphin. However, I didn't want it to, have Bulbasaur battle Sprigatito just because they're both grass types. If anything, Gible being on Sprigatito's level, it makes sense because it's basically... Gible is not a starter, but he's from the anime against a starter from the manga. In terms of power levels, I feel like they would be equal or even to some extent. Because Pokemon in the manga evolve faster. Because they abide more to game logic. And this actually gives Bulbasaur a great win. Like Bulbasaur against the Palafin, that would just be awesome. And I have Totodile against Crocolore because Fire and Water, and they're both Totodiles, they're both crocodiles, sorry. And then I had Larvitar against Wooper because they are both ground mons. I think it would be a very cool fight. And last but not least, Scraggy against Nimble. And I think that maybe these two could evolve at the same time and become, Low Kicks and Scrafty, the rebellious hero and the rebellious Pokemon, the rebellious hoodlum that's Scrafty, and the righteous, dark hero that it's, Low Kicks. But yeah, this is basically all of the matches that I had planned for Ash when it comes to, fighting the Dex holders in the manga universe of Pokemon Adventures. Let me know if you guys like these hypothetical matches, what would you like to see, comment those down below, and make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, trainers, I appreciate the support. KuroBlitz out.